Hello and welcome to the big picture. The job of the Election Commission in monitoring the ongoing election campaign is increasingly becoming more and more complicated. After having been directed to scrutinize the manifestos of political parties by the Supreme Court, the Commission has now taken upon itself the task of monitoring the social media and networking sites on internet for political advertisements. It is for the first time that the Commission has embarked on this task. Several questions crop up on the circular which has been issued by the Commission to all political parties. How do the political parties see this circular and how are they geared up to follow the instructions? What are the problems which are likely to crop up in adhering to these norms? In the World Wide Web, is it humanly possible to monitor all those individuals and groups who are politically active? Will the Commission be able to regulate the internet content as per the Model Code of Conduct which it has taken upon itself? We will discuss all this today with Deepak Amin, Spokesperson Congress, Dilip Cherian, Founder Perfect Relations, and Kapil Kaul, former advisor social marketing to the Election Commission of India. Welcome to all of you. Deepak, I would like to come to you first. How does the Congress party look at this circular which has been issued by the Election Commission of India? How are you gearing up to meet their requirements as far as what you do on the internet and social media is concerned?
Girish, it's actually very welcome. The Congress party welcomes these kind of initiatives. In fact, the Election Commission has been very, very proactive from many years in making sure that the election process in India is fair, it is transparent, it provides a level playing field. And to that extent, given that social media and online advertising is a new, I wouldn't say phenomenon, but it's new in terms of its extent and reach now, I think the initiatives by the Election Commission are welcome.
The initiatives are welcome, but how is your party gearing up to this? For instance, it says that all the blogs, Wikipedia, blogs and micro blogs, content communities, social networking sites, virtual game worlds, all these and collaborative projects, which means in Wikipedia also, all these are going to come under the scrutiny of the Election Commission. Now, who is putting up ads where? Is it something which is easily monitorable as far as a political party is concerned?
I think it is. It's no different from monitoring advertisements in the real world, whether it is hoardings or it is television. This is another electronic media. Many of these advertisements which are supplied or which are shown online are all through agencies, what are known as online advertising agencies, and they can be monitored. They can be asked for audit reports. It's not very difficult. So
you don't think that there would be any difficulty in adhering to these Election Commission norms on this?
No, I don't. It's not about difficulty in adhering to Election Commission norms. It is about making sure that all political parties are subjected to the same rules. And also, I'm sure since this is the first time the Election Commission has taken this initiative, the first time around might be a little hard for all parties, but over time this has to be welcome and this has to settle down.
Okay. We are now joined in by Pawan Duggal, a cyber law expert and a Supreme Court advocate. Welcome, Pawan. Pawan, I would like to come to you first. Mr. Deepak Amin of the Congress party has welcomed this initiative of the Election Commission of India. How do you look at this initiative?
I think the initiative is in the right step, the right direction, the right move. However, the issue is, how do you ensure that your dictate is going to be followed? A majority of these social media companies are located outside the territorial boundaries of India. They do not normally have the propensity to observe with Indian cyber law. In fact, the majority of these service providers technically say that we are located outside your country and we are not technically amenable to your legislation and your law per se. That's the reason. The bigger issue is, while the intention is very noble, the question is, there's no penal mechanism with the hands of the Election Commission to ensure that these foreign service providers or intermediaries who themselves are observing the Indian cyber law more in breach rather than in observance, how will they actually ensure that these dictates are carried forward? More so, what are the various parameters for ensuring that the challenges raised by jurisdiction and other issues of cyberspace, which has made geography history, are appropriately addressed?
Pawan, my question, there are two aspects to this whole thing. One, you're talking about the companies itself based outside Indian territory and things like that, but the onus seems to be the circular. If you go through the circular election commission, the onus seems to be on the political parties now to register themselves. They have to go and approach before any ads are put on any of the internet sites. Just like now, they have to go and when they advertise in the print or electronic media. Now, what is very interesting, what the election commission done is, when they say electronic media, internet is also electronic media. So whatever is applicable to electronic media will apply to this. How is it going to be? How will they be able to do that?
I think that's a bigger challenge. They've only scratched the tip of the iceberg. Political ads on social media, on internet is one component of the huge cake. The bigger cake is, how do you ensure that the shadow boxing through fake or other accounts that is happening on social media are not appropriately misused so as to prejudicially impact the electoral process? Another issue is, what is the mechanism in place?
Exactly.
In place which can effectively give into activation and implementation the noble objectives of the Election Commission?
Mr. Kaul, do you think that the Election Commission has a facility to monitor these kind of things? And do you as a normal person who understands the extent of internet in this world, actually, do you think that the Election Commission has such instruments to go through this?
I think I'd like to begin with a definition of the social media. What is social media?
This is not just about social media. They're calling
I'll
internet
come
sites.
To that. I'll come to that. You see, social media is like a highway, right? And in a highway, I am driving my car, you're driving your car. Okay? And I may have one sticker on my car, you may have another sticker on your car. Now the point is that advertising on social media is equivalent to advertising when you go on the highway, on billboards, on bridges, etc., which is paid for and which can be monitored. Perfectly monitored. There's no reason, as Mr. Duggal said, that there are mechanisms why they are run through advertising agencies or media agencies, etc. So there's a record of expenditure. But if I am driving, if I have a Twitter handle, which I equate to driving a particular car, and I have a particular sticker on my thing, that's my choice. So that's my freedom of expression. So you have to draw a clear distinction between what is monitorable and what is not monitorable. Now, if I am driving my car and I have a particular sticker which might be helping or which might be in support of a particular political party or a candidate, that is my freedom of expression. So you cannot regulate that.
That's where Dilip, how do you look at this? See, for instance, pre-certification of political advertisements, which is what, if you see there.
Yes.
Now, that seems to be a lot more simpler, because, these political advertisements are given by political parties. The political parties will. Now, what about groups or individuals? You belong to a particular political party. You create groups or individuals who can advertise or use so many other methods to propagate your party or your individuals. This thing. How do you monitor that?
I tend to.
What are the other pitfalls you see in this?
I tend to see this entire exercise as a bit Luddite. It's so a throwback to a regime which obviously the Election Commission, I'm sorry to say, all parties and unfortunately a certain kind of individual is bound to laud it, because this is the flavor of the season. The Election Commission is doing such a great job. They've got such a tough job to do. They really have a huge risk, and they are sitting on this time bomb, all of that. So let's take all that as read. The fact is that this is not going to be possible for three reasons. One, the pace of movement on the social media is far, far faster. How will you get these ads scrutinized by the Election Commission? By the time you put the ad, from the time to the time you get the permission, the entire social media landscape changes almost from hour to hour. So savvy advertising agencies will have to constantly alter their messages.
And the number of sites.
That's right. That aside, I think Pawan has dealt with that part. The second thing is that this is a young medium, a medium where the young, the unbound as it were, unshackled. Now, to put the onus on the candidate or to put the onus on the party is a wonderful thing, because that is a structure which the Election Commission is used to working with. Full marks to them, and that's all their mandate is, so that's okay. But the point that we need to look at is young people are by nature born to break rules. So they are going to do this, you know, and there's going to be mayhem. And of course you can penalize them after the act, and that's not going to be very much use. The third thing is that what is the most interesting way in which social media is used? It is humor, black humor usually,
yes.
And that is often in the form of advertising, because you know you actually put up a picture and then you get people to like it, and then you morph a picture and then you play with it. This is, you know, now the fine line between humor and advertising in that sense is very difficult to draw.
We are now joined in by Arvind Gupta, head of the IT cell of the BJP. Arvind, how do you look at this? How do you look at this? Election Commission's mandate to all of you now, all the political parties, to adhere to certain norms on the internet. How have you been able to gear up to it? How are you gearing up to it?
There are a couple of good many facets to it, and I'll try to explain it in a very simple language. The Election Commission has clearly said anything that is an advertisement.
Yes.
Which you, as you rightly said, electronic media guidelines also apply now to the internet.
Right.
Now, which is a welcome step, because you know you are making sure that the official content, the official advertisements that any political parties or candidates are running are all following the same guidelines. So it's a 360-degree guidelines for all platforms. Now, that the distinction there is on the advertisements. The other thing that they have said is that the content, the official content coming out from official candidates or parties need not be certified by the Election Commission, but it should still adhere to the model code of conduct, which is what any decent political party or candidate always does by itself. So, you know, it should not be inflammatory, it should not be defamatory, and all those other guidelines that applies to the model code of conduct.
No, you're sorry, Arvind. When you're saying that there is no need for pre-certification, what do you mean? The political ads don't need.
I'm distinguishing between advertisements which are paid in nature,
right,
where you are doing inorganic promotion of an advertisement, the kind of banner ads you see on mobiles or YouTube pre-rolls, right? So there is a lot of digital advertising that happens on social media,
right?
That comes under the ambit of advertising, right?
When it comes to propaganda, how do you distinguish propaganda from advertisements?
I'm coming to that. Then secondly, if I have a wall post, and as the gentleman was rightly explaining, that's a sticker on my own car.
Absolutely.
I am responsible for that. And if I am a candidate or if I am a political party, I need to adhere to those norms. They don't come under the category of advertisement. Advertisement is something that you see on the road while traveling, which is an outside property. Whereas what I put on my own page or wall or own properties need to adhere to certain norms, which is self-certified. And I'm just trying to distinguish.
Arvind, don't you see that this is where all the problems will start? Just now, Deepak, Amin of the Congress party was, very subtly mentioning about the kind of campaign being indulged by another political party, which obviously I think he was either referring to you or to the another political party, which is very strong on the social media and internet. So now this blame game between political parties, don't you expect this to happen now? You can claim that this is propaganda, this is individual propaganda, individual trying to support something, and somebody else will claim, no, the party has funded this entire campaign. If there are 10,000 stickers of what you're talking about across a city, now is it all those 10,000 people who are doing it individually, or have they been funded by somebody? And how do you, if they have been funded, how do you distinguish it?
See, that is where I think the gentleman was also correct in saying there's a very thin line between finding that out versus freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Now, we don't want these guidelines to turn into another backdoor censorship tool. People
is
should
exactly
be free
the point.
people
Okay.
should be free to
Girish,
write what
can I
they
just
want to
come in?
write.
Let me get Deepak in on the, yes, Deepak.
Yeah, Girish, I think all of the points that have been made so far
Yes.
were equally valid and equally applicable to the real physical world 20 years ago. How do you prevent 10 people from getting together at somebody's house and campaigning? How do you prevent somebody from coming up with a joke and spreading it through word of mouth? All of these issues are now being done online. 20 years ago, the same problems, the same issues were being asked of the Election Commission. How will they implement this? This is great, we welcome it, but how will they implement it? Well, lo and behold, 20 years later, the implementation is not bad. Yes, maybe this time around the implementation will be a little difficult, but 10 years, 15 years from now, it will be fine.
You're calling it little difficult.
I think,
Yes.
I think that's the point that we should all focus on. I mean, let us be realistic. These helpful guidelines, which all parties will necessarily laud, will take 20 years to get somewhere logical and valid.
No, Pawan, do you think in 20 years also it will be, you will be able to see a situation where you will be able to, I mean,
I'm sorry, it's not going to take 20 years. This will be done in a year or 2 years.
Deepak,
It's not like the Election Commission is not going to keep up with technology.
Deepak, I know, I admire your optimism, but let us get Pawan in the, Pawan?
I think it appears that the Election Commission is lost in the woods. It has no clue of how it has to go forward in a mechanism which is
let me read the last point in the Election Commission's circular to all political parties. It says that this is E. As far as the content posted by persons other than candidates and political parties is concerned, the Commission is considering the matter in consultation with the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology on practical ways to deal with the issue, insofar as they relate to or can be reasonably connected with election campaign of political parties and candidates.
At a time when the elections, the process has already begun, you are still in the process of thinking and considering what you need to be doing post the elections. Now, clearly that shows that the Election Commission has no clue of how does it want to go about dealing with this entire phenomenon.
So far we have discussed, the two representatives of the two major political parties, as Dilip, Cherian rightly points out, they have to laud it, and they are, I mean, I can understand their
correct.
But my question is, every political party, we are presuming that every political party will be very straight, and they will approach this without any malified intent. But what about the whole lot of malified intents which we see on the internet and social media?
Well, we have to quickly realize that internet provides a unique opportunity which was not present in the real world, and that was the opportunity of anonymity. A lot of people still want to hide behind the cloak of anonymity and do a large number of things which they may not be legally permissible to do. That being so, the bigger question is, how does the Election Commission ensure that this cloak of anonymity does not get misused by political parties, by candidates, and the entire election process per se is not vitiated? Let's not do something indirectly what we cannot do directly as well.
I'd like to bring a different perspective.
Yes.
You see, when you talk about the malified intent and defamation campaigns, etc., etc., this is self-correcting. If you look at the internet,
one is malified intent.
Can I? This is.
I'll just come to you.
Make a point.
I'll just come to you, Arvind. One is malified intent. Second is to overcome these regulations.
And there are so many ways to overcome and
Exactly.
these regulations.
You see, I think if you look at it from a regulator's mindset, then you will be looking at it. But if you look at it as a new form of expression which the public has, like for example today, social media gives me an opportunity to sit in my office, do my work, and yet support or not support something.
However,
I don't have to be on the street to be a particular campaign
that's
supporter.
exactly the point.
So you look at
Pawan is making this point. The anonymity, which Deepak was talking about, the 20 years what was there, it has just been brought into the internet space, whatever guideline or whatever. But I think there's a larger issue involved. Pawan?
there's a much bigger issue, and bigger issue is how do you ensure that the surrogate freedom of speech and expression does not get misused. Everybody's got a right to freedom of speech and expression, but how about trying to get mules in this online election economy to try to do your dirty work, which you cannot be legally seen to be doing. So there is a lot of misuse.
We have seen, Arvind, Arvind, I just want to bring to your notice, you can make the point which you're trying to make. One of the and after that, please address this also. We have seen recently a sting operation done by a television channel on opinion pollsters, some of whom also were offering their services as far as the internet space is concerned and what they can do on that. These are all real things now. How do we control or monitor these kind of things? What Pawan also was talking about.
So I have 2 points to make, and I have 2 points to make here. Number one is the fact that internet is a lot more monitorable, and the traceability can be done better than it can be done on the roadside. If somebody is running a surrogate campaign by plastering wrongful posters on walls or on hoardings.
No, I'm not talking of wrongful things, even rightful things.
No, let me just make that statement first and understand the point. It is a little slightly more difficult to be traced. Whereas on the internet, if somebody is doing wrongful defamatory or inflammatory acts, it is much easier to be tracked. And we should keep this in point. The point being, this is where the Election Commission and even a lot of our other ministries before the Election Code of Conduct has proven to be toothless. And they actually are very inadequately prepared to deal with the explosive internet and social media world that we have seen in the last few years.
So,
and I think their priorities have been very, very wrong. But I'll leave it to some other day. Coming to your second point.
No, Arvind, what is the point you're making? You're making that this is the point you're trying to make is that these circular or these conditions which are being laid down by the Election Commission are something which is very difficult to adhere to, or what are you trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say is the political parties and the candidates will adhere to these conditions because they are mandated to do that. They're declaring their Facebook accounts. But there is a lot of surrogacy, anonymity, and a lot of content under the garb of surrogacy and anonymity.
That is exactly the point. How do Deepak?
And I'm trying to say that
yes.
That is where we find that all these rules and regulations don't apply, and our election commissions, our cyber cells are toothless and ill-adequately prepared to address these needs.
Okay. Deepak.
Girish, there are two aspects to this.
Yes.
Let's remember.
Yes.
One is the part which involves money and expenditure of money by political parties.
I was coming to that.
Okay. And second is the part which, as was discussed, whether it is surrogacy which involves money or not, or it is individual freedom of expression. As far as the money part is concerned, expenditure by political parties is concerned, I'm not saying it's easily monitorable, but it's relatively easier to address that. And over time, the systems for that will become easier. Like I said.
How? Now,
like
for instance,
many of these online advertisements are done through online advertising agencies. These agencies are very well known. Election Commission can do that work prior to the elections, and you can monitor their expenditures. That's not that hard, and over time it can improve, no doubt. Is there room for improvement? Yes. The bigger problem, which is more difficult to address immediately in the short term, which is where I believe it will take a little bit longer, is the part which does not involve expenditure, as in directly declarable expenditure. So you can have armies of people sitting in some hole somewhere and doing surrogate advertising or surrogate jokes or whatever it is. That's harder to do. But by the same token, as Arvind was saying, by the same token, any such initiatives are also more easily exposed and traceable online. I'll give you a very simple example, right? Nowadays everybody talks about Twitter handles and Twitter followers. Well, as soon as people started talking about how many likes you have or how many Twitter followers you have, you also have a website called Twitter Audit. You also have something called the Social Breakers. Where they say how many Twitter handles are correct, how many are suspicious, how many are active, inactive. So all of this information comes out on the net much more easily.
Pawan, all this information which is talking about, which can be collected here, with all these new things which have been, new applications which have been, how much of them are justifiable, how much of them are legally, enforceable?
First and foremost, the majority of these services are located outside India. Number two, there is no transparency of what is the algorithm or mechanisms adopted by these kind of services. And thirdly, what's the legality of their output being legally produced and proved in Indian courts of law? Those are big question marks. But more significantly, I think in this entire debate, the Election Commission has lost one fundamental side of the fact. The fact is that the Election Commission itself becomes the biggest intermediary under the Information Technology Act 2000. Election Commission is mandated under Section 79 of the IT Act to exercise due diligence while discharging its obligations under the Act. And I'm afraid to say that this notification clearly shows that the kind of exercise of due diligence that the Information Technology Act is expecting out of Election Commission is clearly not being done.
Application, one of the bigger things which they have taken upon themselves. They are saying the application of model code of conduct to content on internet, including social media. If you read the model code of conduct, sure, and if you see any stuff which is there on the internet, I mean, how are they going to apply that at all?
This is exactly the question. Is you are trying to match up the high-tech gunnery with primitive age weapons.
Yes, Dilip.
Unless they expect Moore's law to be overturned very soon, the point is that it's going to be constantly running ahead of them. Sure, there are ways of modifying behavior to a certain extent. You can wrap a few knuckles, and that is what I expect the Election Commission will do at some stage. But as I said, the real credibility on the internet space is not of official sites, is not of the main websites, is not of people putting up parties, putting up their own ads. That's not where the real damage and the real impact is happening.
Deepak,
is that difficult?
I want Deepak and Arvind both to react to this. Deepak,
no,
one second.
Girish, I'll just...
no, 1 second. I have a question. You can react. You can,
okay,
react to that also.
Sure.
It says, the circular says, information to be given by candidates about their social media accounts. It looks very naive on the part of the Election Commission, asking, okay, every candidate will give their social media accounts, whether they are on Facebook or Twitter or but there is a huge lot of anonymous stuff which is happening there. How are you going to, and who is supporting whom, why he is supporting what? Is this something which can be easily monitored, or and don't you think this will all lead to so much of litigations and so much of complaints against each other? It can just muddy the entire already muddied electoral space.
Girish, there are two things. Asking for Twitter handle, does it sound naive today? It probably does, but it's a start. I mean, are you suggesting that the Election Commission shouldn't do anything at all on this front? I think they have to take certain steps, and they've taken certain steps. I think that's okay. The second thing is, somebody mentioned about, how do you monitor all the entire space? Well, if you take the Pareto principle, 80% of the traffic, 80% of the discussions, 80% of the opinions are discussed on a couple of websites, and they are not difficult to monitor. If you look at all the traffic, it's not very hard to monitor that stuff.
Now, okay.
In fact, even today, outside of the election process, Girish, even outside of the election process,
yes,
if you have a problem, whether it's on YouTube or on Twitter or somebody, you can actually file a complaint with the police if it's against you.
You can, but is the system equipped to handle the huge number of complaints which can come up? We don't know.
But the complaints, remember that the complaints will come up based on the candidates complaining, and it's the same problem in the real physical world.
Common people also can complain. Yes, Arvind, quickly.
My 2 cents on this is that it's important to start here, but I would have liked it to be a more thought out, comprehensive guidelines and remove a lot of ambiguity around surrogacy and around anonymity.
Okay.
I just like to mention that as far as the surrogacy bit is concerned, you see, this is a bit like paid media. Because
this is like paid media.
Because whenever a complaint is brought to the notice of the Election Commission, or any such activity is brought to the notice of the Election Commission, which falls in the category of paid media, it is duly investigated. So same process can be adapted.
I admire the simplistic way you put these things. Dilip, very quick last words to you. 70 lakhs of rupees is what a MP can spend according to the Election Commission in this election. Now, 70 lakhs, not an MP, but a candidate who is contesting for that. So, you think that, how much of it will go into his social media campaign? Is it yes?
Girish, if I can make a point here.
Very quickly.
If I can make a very quick point here.
Yes. Yes, very quickly, Deepak.
This is Arvind here. If I can
Okay,
make a
yes.
very quick point.
Yes, Arvind, very quickly. We are completely running out of time.
I think we should encourage a lot more of digital spends because they are a lot more transparent, they are a lot more accountable and a lot more measurable.
Okay, I think we are completely run out of, sorry Dilip, we completely run out of time. That is another aspect, the actually how much is going to be spent on the social media, on the internet is something, it needs a separate discussion, we will discuss that. But this is, as most of my guests feel that there needs to be a little more clarity on this circular which has been issued by the Election Commission of India, but we'll wait and watch how it can be implemented. Thanks to all my guests, Arvind, Deepak, Amin, Pawan, Duggal, Mr. Kaul and Dilip, Cherian. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture, same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.